Today we're going to add some color to our beautiful pinch pots using glaze. Glaze is a special kind of paint used for clay. Today you're going to choose one color glaze for your pinch pot, just one. You may have different colors at your table so that everybody can choose the color they want, but yours will be one color. For example, purple or orange, not both. So once you've chosen the color, you're going to hold your brush like a pencil. We hold it right behind the gold or silver part, or called the danger zone, and we don't hold our brush up here. We don't hold it like that, but we hold it pencil grip right behind the silver part, and then we're going to dip just our tippy toes into the paint. We're not going to get paint on the danger zone or the silver part or all the way up here, and we're going to try not to get it on our hands. We're going to dip just a little tiny bit like that, and we're going to start by painting the inside. So we're going to find the inside, and we're just going to paint over the white clay. We want to cover all the white clay if we can, and when we run out of paint, we're going to get a little bit more and really get our brush in there. It's kind of hard because our pinch pot might be kind of small, but we're going to stick our brush in there and we're going to try to get all the white. So you're going to have to look in there to make sure that you get all the white clay covered on the inside until you get to the top. You can even turn your brush different directions to help get all that paint off, and when you run out you can get some more. We shouldn't have big globs of paint. If you have a big glob of paint, you need like that, you need to brush it and smooth it to another part of your clay. Like you're sweeping the floor, sweep it to a part of white clay to make sure that glob doesn't stay like that. We want to smooth it out, okay, like that. Now once you paint the inside, we're going to paint the top, because that's part of the clay too. It's got a top to it. This is a sculpture, so it's three-dimensional, or it's got lots of different sides to it, and it's got a top and a bottom. The top, and then we're going to paint the sides. Okay, I like to paint the sides first in horizontal lines. So I'm going to turn it sideways, and remember, horizontal lines are lazy lines. They lay down, so they go from left to right. I'm going to paint some at the top to cover up this white clay, and then I'm going to get very close to the bottom, but guess what? I am not painting the bottom. We are not painting the bottom, okay? The bottom is where you have some letters written for your name and your teacher's name, so we are not going to paint the bottom. We're going to try our best to get close to the bottom. You can even turn your clay around in your hand, and you might have to grab it and get a little bit on your hands, but it's okay. You shouldn't be covered in paint. And we're going to paint in horizontal lines all the way on the sides. You can even lay it on the table and paint it like this. You might have to press down the top, but we're painting in horizontal lines all the way around. You see a little bit of white clay, you're going to cover it up with your paint. Even in that crack right there, if you have a heart, you're going to have that little top of the heart where there's a little crack. Get in there too, and paint horizontal lines until there's no more white clay. There we go. Now, you might notice that the inside looks dry now and the outside looks a little shiny and wet. It does dry pretty quick, but we are going to let it dry, and we're going to paint it again later. So I'm going to put my brush on my newspaper to let it rest. I'm going to move my pinch pot over. I'm going to get a drawing paper and draw until it's time to paint again. We are going to set a little timer, and I'll tell you when it's time to do the next part. Okay, friends, once it's pretty dry, Miss Dalmy's going to tell you to paint it again. So you're going to paint the same steps again with the same color. Do not dip your brush into a different color. You must use the same color as you used the first time, or these won't come out right. So we're going to get a little bit of paint, and we're going to paint the inside again. We're going to get it into the center, and we're going to paint it again. And you might see that the paint turns wet and shiny again when it was dry before, and it looks darker. If we want our sculptures to be so beautiful and nice and shiny, we have to paint it more than once, and we have to follow these directions. So we're covering up dry glaze with more glaze. Make sure you really look in there with your eyes and make sure that all the parts look wet and shiny. If it's a dry spot, that means you didn't add the glaze again and you have to make sure it's covered, okay? We're not gonna cover it over and over and over and over. We're just gonna paint the dry spots one more time. And then we're gonna do the top. Remember, if you have a big lump of paint or a big scoop of paint, make sure you use your paintbrush like a broom and sweep it to another part, okay? Paint the top. See how it looked dry on the side and shiny at the top? That means I did it correctly on the top, and now I got to do the same on the sides. Now this time, let's paint in vertical lines. We're going to start at the bottom. Oh, I got a little bit too much paint. Start at the bottom and go up. Start at the bottom and go up. If I have a big glob of paint, I'm going to use my brush to sweep it up. See how I swept that around? Start at the bottom and go up. That way you're making vertical lines. You can even put your clay down. Start at the bottom and go up. Start at the bottom and go up. Try your best not to get any paint on the bottom. Start at the bottom and go up. Start at the bottom and go up. Vertical lines. That also helps it make it more shinier and make sure that it's all covered. We don't want any wimpy coloring, wimpy colors. We want it to be so dark and beautiful. We don't want to have any of our white clay showing through. So we want to make sure that it's all covered so it's all shiny again. And I see a little dry spot right there, so I'm gonna add a little bit of glaze. Okay, and now the inside's starting to get dry again, but I do see a little white spot. Uh-oh, gotta cover that up. No white clay showing, remember? And then once you paint the side and the top and the inside again, let it dry, put your paintbrush down, do some drawing while you wait. We're gonna set another timer and we'll come back again. Okay, friends, it's time to glaze our pinch pots one more time to make sure they're going to be so beautiful when they come out of the kiln. Whoopsie. We're going to hold our brush like a pencil grip again, get a little bit. We're going to start with the inside, remember? We're going to go to the bottom and paint all along the sides to make sure I covered up all of the dry color. So it looks a little dry and it looks lighter, right? If you haven't noticed, it's getting lighter every time that it dries. And then when we add paint, it looks shiny, wet, and darker. So dark paint looks dark, wet paint looks darker. And we want to make sure that we use it 3 times because the glaze is very light, and we want to make sure that it really is going to make a beautiful color. So painting the top, make sure I covered all the dry spots. I see a little bit in there when I look inside really close. Use those eyeballs, check the inside and make sure there's no dry spots. Get them if you can. And then we're going to paint the outside, and we're going to switch to horizontal again. So horizontal lines are lazy. They lay down from left to right. We're not going to paint the bottom. We're going to get so close to the bottom, but look, Miss Dalmy's bottom is so nice and clean. I want yours to stay that way too. You can even put it down on the table, pinch it or hold the top and paint those dry spots. Glazing our clay. Remember, a piece of clay is called a sculpture. It's called a sculpture because we used our hands to sculpt or form it. We made this little beautiful pinch pot from a little old sad piece of lump of clay, and we did so awesome. We sculpted it, shaped it with our hands, so we made a sculpture. It is a beautiful work of art. When you are done and you covered up all the dry spots and everywhere looks shiny and wet, you are finished. I just love the hard work that you've done.